Hallo zusammen und ganz herzlich willkommen bei Greentech.LIVE, heute aus Hamburg. Wir sind bei Signify im Headquarter hier in Hamburg und haben ein tolles Programm für euch vorbereitet. Wir haben über 30 Sprecher in den nächsten 2 Tagen und beginnen heute natürlich auch mit jemand, der dem Unternehmen Signify gut bekannt ist und der sich mit Nachhaltigkeit beschäftigt. Ich würde als ersten Gast mal fragen, ob der Harry schon in der Leitung ist. Harry, can you hear me? I can see you on my screen, Harry. Good morning, Harry.
So yeah. Good morning. I can't hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you very well.
Okay, now I hear you.
Can you hear me now? Okay.
Yes, I can hear now.
Great to connect, Harry. So you brought a presentation.
Yes, I do.
This is a slot about 20 minutes, and then I'll have a couple of questions, and I'll be joined by one of my colleagues, Bertie Kolber-Leurat. Bertie, guten Morgen nach Hannover.
Guten Morgen, Jochen. Guten Morgen nach Hannover. Nein, also ja, hier ist auch guten Morgen. Ich meine natürlich guten Morgen nach Hamburg.
Harry, where are you located today?
I'm in Eindhoven, in our famous high-tech campus.
Okay. Thank you so much for having us here at the headquarters in Germany. Yeah, and I'm aware you brought a presentation in regards to the newly formed partnership with the Mercedes Petronas Formula One team. And I can tell you, I'm from Stuttgart, so I know a couple of things about Mercedes. But before I'll talk and Bertie ask questions, I'm sure you have a presentation to share, and we would be very happy to see it.
Yeah, I just shared it, so it's on my screen. Can you see it? Can you see it?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Okay.
So your stage, Harry.
Okay. Now, again, thank you all very much for inviting me to share some background and also some of the ideas behind the partnership between Signify and Mercedes-AMG Petronas Formula One, as it is called in its full formal name. I might say a few times Mercedes Formula One, but this is the formal name. Without further ado, maybe just a few words so you know who we are, because also my colleagues Andreas Ried and Stefan Zander have been with you, but just a few words on that. So we are the World Leader in Lighting. We were actually founded as Philips Lighting in 1891 and then evolved through a lot of technology sector expansion, just in a way like Siemens, but then also like other conglomerates around the world. The conglomerates broke up. Fortunately, all the kids that flew the house are successful, same as us. So we became independent in 2016. And part of that agreement was that in 2018, we needed to change the company name. So that's why we are Signify. So over 30,000 people, close to 7 billion turnover. But then, the point is with that our main brand is Philips. But it's not our only brand. So over time, we've acquired a number of companies. We've also launched technology brands ourselves. We have a few global brands, as you see on the top. Some of those you may recognize, like Philips Hue, but also Color Kinetics for architectural projects. And in North America, the market is a little bit different. So there we have Genlight lighting solutions and Cooper lighting solutions, and there typically the market is multi-branded. So one of the challenges we were faced with in the run-up to this partnership is how do we communicate that we have a house of brands? How do we develop a logical customer journey and user experience? Because there are some restrictions to having a license to the Philips brand, but most importantly, the Signify name is not that well known. So maybe even some of you maybe scratching your heads on Signify have done that in the past few years. So one of the objectives is then how do we increase the awareness of Signify as our main brand, as a corporate brand, as a mother of all our brands, as I sometimes say. And then the smartest way to do that, and let's say the most effective way to do that, is through a sports partnership. And so we've actually, in the run-up since early last year, explored quite some options on partnering. You see here, on stadium, a lot of sports, as I mentioned, tennis, cycling, esports, running, but also let's say in entertainment and music. But then really what comes out is that the most effective way, let's say the most effective partnerships are with sports. And there, well, this is the subject of this presentation. We came together with Mercedes, AMG, Petronas, Formula One. And they wanted to partner with us as much as we wanted to partner with them. So it's really, let's say, an equal partnership in the sense of the objectives behind it. You see also here already a little naming on the car, and there are a few more places where this is a part of it. There's a whole list. It's probably quite super complicated, and lots of things that are in rights and in agreements in the contract, and also required to have a Formula One. I won't bore you with all of that. So we've worked through all of that. There's visibility. There are programs on communication, on social media, on things we do jointly, particularly on sustainability and on climate. But before I go into that, I wanted to show you some statistics on sports partnerships. So you see here on the left a table with, let's say, the size of the audience interested in different sports. And there's soccer, football, as we say, is the largest. After that comes Formula One, which has doubled in the past 5 years. Then cycling, sailing, Formula E. But then, the question is also, okay, football and Formula One are by far the two largest and most effective types of sports partnerships. But then football has a bit of a different audience than Formula One. So in general, about 2/3 of the Formula One audience is technology savvy. So as we are a technology company, that's important. And also what you see with football, it's pretty tribal. So there are only very few teams that have global exposure. But it's also so that people like one team and they may particularly dislike another team. Whereas in Formula One, we may have all of us may have our favorite driver and favorite team, but in general, you see that throughout the Formula One audience, there's also a sympathy and let's say for the sport in its entirety. So in that sense, for us as Signify, then Formula One is by far the best choice. And then we explored a number of teams. And as mentioned, there was mutual approach between Mercedes Formula One and ourselves, between both CEOs, our CEO, Eric Rondelat, and the Mercedes Formula One CEO, Toto Wolff. And there you see not surprising for you, certainly not in Germany, that Mercedes, which is for part owner of the team, is one of the most valuable brands in the world, the most valuable car brand. It's number 7 in global brands ranking. It has a huge social media following. And also Toto Wolff and the two drivers, George Russell and Lewis Hamilton, have a very high following. But then, if we then go into sustainability, and of course that is important, for all of us, but also for you as a Greentech event, that Mercedes Formula One really wants to develop into the sustainability leader in Formula One, and they're committed to becoming one of the most sustainable sports teams in the world. They have an extensive sustainability program and also quite impressive reports on everything they do. And they are committed to become net zero across all scopes 1, 2, and 3 by 2040. They're investing in renewable energy, in sustainable aviation fuel. Today, actually, the cars are already 25% electric. And next year it will be 50%, and they will switch to sustainable biofuel. So there's a lot happening. But what is also let's say within the exchanges and let's say the working program that we have with the team is that this is not very well known. Whereas our transition, we as a company, we led the global lighting sector transition, where we work together, let's say, on the same vision of the future with the other global brands, Osram, GE, Sylvania, and a few others, where we really, let's say, we then compete more on who is faster and smarter, but had on the same vision of a more sustainable future. And maybe a little sidestep there. I think some of you know that actually this is the program that I've been running for almost 20 years. Well, time flies when you're having fun. But then in 2006, when we called for the global phase out of incandescent light bulbs, that was still 2/3 of our sales volume. and lighting was 19% of global electricity. Well, today we are 85% LED in our business, and the electricity consumption by lighting has more than halved to between 8 and 9%, and can even halve further up to, let's say, in the coming decades as part of our climate transition plan. So it's also there that the team is very interested in our experiences, and this is where we are supporting them, let's say, all their sustainability goals. On the next slide, if it works, yep. So I think this is a little clip. I hope it works. Now I need to get out of this. So I hope it works again. So the stepped out of YouTube. But it's also, you see here the main messaging, we call it the 1+3 messaging behind the partnership. What is also interesting to note, if you look at our, let's say, our company as a lighting company and our sector, then our innovations are mostly on energy efficiency. So they play out in the built environment. So buildings are globally responsible for 40% of carbon emissions, of energy consumption and carbon emissions. I say built environment because, of course, for us also the street lighting around the buildings is relevant. But then the Formula One and the Mercedes Formula One innovations, eventually, also in the past and in the future, they play out in the global transport sector. So advances on efficiency, on electrification, also on safety in other areas, they really play out in that sector. And you see there that, let's say, the high level fit in the partnership is that the built environment and the global transport sector are the two biggest areas where carbon emissions need to be reduced through efficiency and through the move to clean energy solutions. So overall, there's a lot of innovation behind it. The main, let's say, the main messaging, the headline is really that this partnership is driven by responsible innovation. And underneath, there are 3 pillars. I'll show a little bit more detail in a second. One is on advancing sustainability. So I mentioned a few things on that. Also working with the team on their environmental responsibility. Then on enhancing performance. Some people might take lighting for granted, but lighting has a huge impact on performance, on let's say, on how, let's say, on the well-being of people, how energized, how active they feel and how they are. And there are a couple of things also where the, let's say, the MF1 team is really highly interested. In a sport where milliseconds count, then every performance element, any element that can enhance performance also matters to them. And then elevating experiences, so elevating fan experience, but also elevating experience off the track, at home when playing, but also elevating experience, let's say, on the trackside and at home. So a little bit more detail on that. So the headline, driven by responsible innovation. We have both, we are both high technology companies and have a passion for our technologies and are pushing the boundaries of what is possible. The lighting you see also here in the garage, the lighting above the car is also relevant because there, the lighting that is applied also has an impact on the mechanics. I've been in the garage at the Silverstone race early July, and there's a team of 58 people working on both cars. And when they come in for a, let's say, it's really huge. And that team is also traveling around the world. So it's really important also that they, let's say, to look after their well-being. So there's one lighting innovation there in the garage that also helps them enhance performance. So we'll get to that as well. Then advancing sustainability. So sharing the learning, both sector-wide, but also in their premises. So the headquarters of the Mercedes Formula One team is in Brackley, a little north of London. So that's where I think about 1,400 people work on the car. And close by, they also have another facility where 1,100 people work on the engine. So 2,500 people working 50 weeks per year, 24/7, on improving, let's say, the technology behind the car. But also then you can imagine with that number of people, also a lot of buildings where energy consumption matters, where we're looking at product integration. It's also as part of their, let's say, of their climate plans. Then I mentioned already a few things on enhancing well-being and performance. So the lighting we showed for the garage really matters, but also here, number of people, it's also a lot of buildings. It's relevant to note that there are 24 races during the year. So this team is very much into looking at how can we handle all the time zones, how can we handle all the jet lags. So the drivers may come in on a Wednesday, on a Thursday, leave on Sunday evening or Monday morning after the race. But then the larger team that builds up the garage, that prepares the car, they're building up for a week, and they're building, let's say, taking down, and they're going to the next race. So they're in constant jet lag, but also in a constant, let's say, normal working hours. So where jet lag impacts. So here we're also looking at the impact of lighting on their well-being. In Brackley, close to London, there's a simulation room where, as I'm also particularly for that team, they're working 24/7, 50 weeks a year, and they're in a room without daylight. So where data are scrolling down of, let's say, of the current race or past race, and everything is analyzed. It's really super impressive how that car is loaded with sensors and everything that you can find. That you can research how to find milliseconds improvements is being done. But then, that team has no daylight. So how do you, by mimicking the circadian rhythm, how do you keep them as energized and as energetic as possible, which will then help them to do a better job. So that's just one example. We also see that enhancing performance and well-being, we're also looking at what you can call analogies. So what happens in that room might also be relevant in a factory environment or an office environment, or what happens on the track, particularly with night races, where we have installed the track lighting in Singapore and in Las Vegas. So Singapore was last weekend, and Las Vegas is in 2 months. Also, the quality of that light also has an analogy in the quality of connected LED street lighting in cities, where we see that good lighting reduces street crime, assaults, and burglary. So in that sense, there are also elements that we work on with the team that enhance their well-being and performance, but also that can be translated. And what does it mean for the larger infrastructure in which we live, work, and leisure? And then the last element, this is pretty cool, is elevating experiences. And for part is gaming. So we also have our U lighting solutions. We're looking at those, installing them also in the paddock club, so that people can, in a simulator, they have a, let's say, a more immersive experience on living, but also on let's say on playing themselves in the simulator, the races. So then, you see here that, let's say, one of your most famous compatriots, Toto Wolff. We also had an early July sustainability working group meeting. So there's a sustainability working group managed by Mercedes Formula One. Come together every half year. And this is where we went through a lot of the topics that I mentioned. So to further shape their program, to learn from each other, to advance sustainability. Mercedes is the from a mapping, let's say a sustainability mapping that was done earlier this year of the global automotive sector. So Mercedes is second in that sustainability progress and ambitions into the future, second only to Tesla, because Tesla is 100% electric. So then that's a bit logical that they ended in first spot. But then compared to all the other car brands, Mercedes number second. So also there, it is relevant, how to explore and how to create the more recognized leadership. And I think particularly also today in the automotive sector in Germany, I think, which is not only close to your hearts, but also to our hearts as a European, strong technology base. And then, okay, how can this help? Then, we launched in June our Climate Transition Plan 2040. So I'm not going to share the entire plan with you, but a few elements. It's built up on the four A's. So the 4 areas that were defined by the We Mean Business Coalition. It's on ambition, it's on action, it's on advocacy, and on accountability. So these are elements that we have jointly shared. And also in our agreement, in the partnership agreement, there's also one item which mentions that also the Mercedes Formula One team will work on and will launch a Climate Transition Plan 2040. In our plan, so we committed to reduce our full value chain ambitions by 40% in 2025 compared to 2019. So I mentioned already the reductions that took place since 2006, but then this is compared to 2019, another 40% in 2030, 50, and in 2040 by 90%, and then compensating the other 10%, which brings you to net zero. Action takes place along the value chain, travel, commuting, logistics. The use phase, and not surprisingly, has the largest impact in lighting. So a lot is happening there. And then also some small investments like areas like end of life. We have done, and we keep on doing a lot of policy advocacy. I've actually been at the UN at the annual climate COP for many, many years. Also Climate Week in New York City was taking place this week, which I handed over to my colleague, Head of Global Sustainability, who's there now. We've shared a lot of suggestions, also working together with Osram and the others over the years with the European Commission, which was adopted in the energy using, in the eco design of energy using product directive, which is expanding, and one of the, I think, most successful pieces of regulation of climate and sustainability regulation that Europe has ever made in the last decades, or that is available globally, and building on that also. Yeah, that's it, triggering other regions to follow that path. And on accountability, so adding the elements of just transition and a lot of reporting requirements. So reporting requirements that we take on ourselves, but also that are more and more included in regulatory requirements. So this is then what we explore on. This is what you see at the ambition level of the Mercedes Formula One team. They reduced also again last year. They have their net zero ambition. And then what was interesting is that in July, that was the Silverstone race in the UK was the first one we joined. And I think you will have seen there that Lewis Hamilton won. He was very emotional. It was his 104th win. You see on the leg of the driver's suit our name Signify. So the stars were a little bit aligned. So since the partnership, they've won 3 races. They've been 6 times on the podium. So let's hope that this continues. There's also some conviction within the team and with Toto Wolff that our Dutch driver, Max Verstappen, will join the team in 2026. So even, let's say, for us, then everything would come nicely together. But that's just a little side remark. So what we do, it's not getting into the news, but it's also then sharing, jointly sharing, Mercedes Formula One sharing and resharing the principles and the motives behind the partnership, the examples that the people can copy, that it can be excited about, but also then in that doing that work, for part in social media, then also creating that increased awareness for Signify, let's say for the Signify brand, and thereby for that being the logical, let's say, mother of all of our brands. So let me stop there. Let me stop sharing, because then I can see you again.
Thank you very much, Harry.
Yeah, so there. I hope this was useful. I hope that I kept myself a little bit to the time because I couldn't see that. But then, let me stop there for possible questions.
Thank you for your insights. We have 2.5 minutes left. There's not a lot of time. I have a short question. So, did the partnership overall raise any eyebrows within your ESG family? Per se, car racing is not a really sustainable sport. So, I'm sure some people ask questions. Is that really the smartest way? But you laid it out in a very intelligent and very smart marketing move way. Yeah.
No, absolutely. There were lots of questions, and I think for part because people didn't really know what is happening on sustainability within Formula One and within the automotive sector. they didn't also really know what Mercedes Formula One was all doing. But as I mentioned, the matching of the two sectors is really relevant for what needs to happen and what needs to be accelerated globally. And of course, on sustainability, there are legacy players. We are also a legacy player. We see new incumbents in the lighting sector who are only LED. And you could then say, okay, these are the nice guys, like solar and wind, then all sounds fine. But then a legacy player, also like Mercedes, has a huge global reach and a huge global impact. So if they really also then model and accelerate their transformation to a more sustainable solution, it has a huge impact. So in that sense, there's a fit on high level and there's a fit on the level below, because we are both leaders in our industries. But indeed, so to clarify that, to work it out, to include in the messaging, that actually was the right response. And people are super excited within our company, let's say from a lot of the customers that have been acquainted with the partnership.
Okay, thank you. Bertie, you have a question.
Thank you, Harry, for your insightful talk. I'm intrigued by the idea that natural lighting can improve well-being and performance without compromising, reducing energy consumption. And you mentioned that you have a simulation room with sensors where you explore the effects of simulating natural lighting on the drivers and the staff. What can you learn from this endeavor for other customers? What can you learn that could help other customers benefit also from the improvements in well-being and performance?
Yes, so the let's say the project is called Nature Connect, and what is really interesting, if you install it in the ceiling, it's like you have an open ceiling. It's as if you see the sky, and you can really mimic the lighting, and it means that then it has an impact on people's well-being and energy levels. So because we evolved in nature without a ceiling over our head. We spend now 90% of our time indoors, and quite often the light level is too low, or the light level is the same during the day, and also the type of white light. So that system really mimics daylight. It can also increase lighting intensity after lunch, so you're more active, but also throughout the day. So and this is typically used in office environments. In our offices, but also increasingly in more and more offices in the world, and also these few examples with Mercedes Formula One.
Okay, thank you very much. Maybe one more question. How can natural lighting or simulating natural lighting help coping with jet lag? That's something I would maybe learn for myself.
Yeah, so it helps actually. So let's say if you have a jet lag, then there are moments, of course, where you can just go to sleep. But if people need to be active, if they have a certain duty, like working on the car, and then with the Nature Connect system, you can actually then mimic, let's say, bright daylight, and people will more quickly adapt in their melatonin levels, let's say in their biochemistry, to the local time zone. There's a lot of research being done on that, but also diving a little bit deeper into that. It's also very much known to the Mercedes Formula One team, but it's really adapting as quickly as possible, let's say, to the schedule that you have to work in the time zone that you have arrived at.
All right.
Amazing.
Thanks very much.
So we ran out of time, unfortunately, but thank you again for your insightful presentation, Harry. I wish you all the best for that partnership with a company from my hometown, from Stuttgart. And I'll hope to see you in the near future. And we'll be back in 3 minutes. In 3 Minuten geht's bei uns weiter. Harry, ciao, ciao. Hat Spaß gemacht. Also geht's weiter in 3 Minuten mit Helmut von den Solar Camps for Future.